You're listening to a podcast for the deep thinker, seeker of growth and spiritual transformation, where intellect meets intuition.
So you had dreams. You saw our dad in these dreams. And what you saw was out of the ordinary. What did you see?
I mean, I'm quite a dreamer in the sense that, I've always had this thing where I'll have a premonition. I've always been quite intuitive as a child. But more recently, I started having dreams. And sometimes the dreams would come true. And I always thought, oh, this is God's way of speaking to me. But I had a few dreams, actually, that started to open my eyes and started to confirm to me that actually our father was really not a good man, or at least was involved in things that weren't very good. And, it was later on as I got older, I found out that he had joined a cult. And you all know that if you're African, you know exactly what that means. So, that's scary, because what it meant was we had to sever all ties with him because we just felt our lives were at risk. And what really confirmed this to me is I had two dreams. There's a few times we tried to reconcile, and I'll let you tell the story about one of those times. But I was considering kind of calling and reconciling, and then I had this dream where it's like I saw my dad, but he kind of presented as a vampire. Like he literally, I know it's crazy. He literally came and he had his fangs and he was dressed like Count Dracula. And he like came towards me and he was trying to bite me. And I thought, oh my gosh. And I literally just jumped out of bed. And it was so scary. Like, it sounds funny, but it was scary. And I thought, yeah, that tells me, because if one thing I know about Dracula is they take blood. They suck blood. Is that correct? Vampires, that's how they sustain themselves. And if you look at things like the occultic practice, darkness, all those kind of sects and cults, they're all kind of around sacrifices and blood and what that means and how that empowers them. So I just took it to mean, that was a really strong warning that he's not a good person and I shouldn't get in contact with him. Because he probably would try to sacrifice us in some way. And that's really sad to say.
So for the benefit of people watching, two questions. Question number one, what if it was just a dream?
Well, I wish it was, but I've had so many of them. And apart from that, in our own physical lives, and we won't go into detail here, we've kind of seen the manifestation of what it means to have someone in that kind of, cult, because they make your life incredibly difficult. There's incredible frustration, incredible attacks that they try to project into your life. And the only thing that's really saved us is our faith in God, our belief in God, because without that, I'm quite certain that we probably wouldn't even be here today. And one of the dreams I had, and this one will stay with me, I don't even know how I'm going to depict it one day, whether I'm going to do a film or a video, but it was such a powerful dream. And I saw myself in a prison, and I was just sat down, and then the prison, it was during a time of prayer and fasting. So we were praying and fasting in our church. And then I had this dream, and I saw that I was sat in a prison. And then what looked like a prison guard came up to the prison door, unlocked it and opened it, and then looked at me. And when the guard looked at me, I literally almost jumped out of jail. Like, I almost collapsed. Like, the look was frightening because it wasn't a normal, you know, prison guard. It was actually like a clown, like in the when I say clown, I mean in the most sinister sense. Like if you see that horror movie, It, I haven't even watched it, but that, I think it's called It with the clown. Or if you see Joker, if you've seen Joker, yeah, that kind of sinister demonic presence came as a prison guard to set me free. Opened the door and I was frightened. I remember in the dream I was shaking because the clown looked so menacing and I was frightened legitimately. And I thought to myself, you know what, horror movies, I think they're onto something. I think they know that these demons exist because the thing with clowns, there is a real mocking Joker spirit out there. I'm certain of it. But anyway, so lets me out of the prison or the cell and I step out because I've been praying. So I'm thinking, yeah, I'm free from whatever oppression or whatever it is, you know, that's been going on in my life. And as I walk out of the prison, this clown, menacing, demonic prison guard looks at me and says, "Did I do a good job?" And has the most menacing, destructive smile I've ever seen. And the smile goes right across the face from ear to ear, like Joker, literally. Again, a film I've not watched because I don't watch horror, so it's quite telling. But when I saw that smile, I was trembling. In the dream, I was trembling because I was so scared of him. And I woke up and I thought, the clown is like letting me out, but still wants me to praise it for doing a good job. It's almost like, yeah, you're free now, but I did a good job oppressing you or imprisoning you. It was so bad.
After that dream?
What happened after that dream? It's hard to pinpoint, but I know that after that dream, I did get like one of my top dream jobs. I did start to see progress and speed in my life in a way that I'd never seen before. So I think definitely, you know, in that time of prayer and, you know, being spiritually connected to God, God kind of revealed that, you know, there was some kind of, I was on some kind of demonic lockdown basically. And so many people are out there and they're functioning physically, but they don't understand that spiritually there's stuff happening to them. And a lot of these things, I believe, were projected by our Father. And he was in connection with a lot of those things because he tried severally to attack us or to manipulate our lives. Whether that was out of anger, jealousy, wickedness, who knows? But he definitely wanted to project suffering and difficulty into our lives so that we would ultimately maybe go back to him and join his cult or join his, you know, family.
And for people who don't have any experience of this and have not come across it before, can you like just shed a bit more light on what we exactly mean when we say cult? Because it's very hard to understand when someone says, I went through this and this happened and this happened. And people might look and think, well, yeah, that sounds like you just had a spell of bad luck. Like that doesn't sound like anything sinister. But if we specifically pinpoint what we mean by cult, what does that look like?
That's a different video. But what I will say is a cult is basically a community of people that come together and they use witchcraft. They use demonic spells to manipulate things or people, to achieve things or to get things. And a lot of that requires an exchange. So they might go to a spiritualist maybe, and they'll say, or a high priest or high priestess, and they might request something like, you know, I want riches, or I want my children to do as I say, or whatever it might be. Sometimes it might even seem innocent. And they'll say, yeah, we'll do that. We'll do a spell for that. We'll do a ritual for that. But in return, you know, one of your kids has to die. In return, you have to do this. Like there's always an exchange. And usually when the exchange includes blood, it's a stronger transaction. It's a stronger demonic power. So it's and it's not that difficult to consider when you think about Christians and they talk about the blood of Jesus and how the blood of Jesus saved the world. So blood is very powerful in the spiritual realm. So it's just that they use it in a negative way, in the opposite way. And it's difficult. I mean, growing up together, you're well aware of a lot of the struggles and the difficulties that we face that were completely abnormal. I mean, really abnormal. I mean, I remember I was doing my PhD research and I would have dreams of my dad on campus coming up to me and saying things like, you're not going to finish, it's going to be hard for you. And literally 300 of my questionnaires just disappeared and went missing. And I had to do them again from scratch. I mean, the amount of frustration and suffering that was inflicted, you know, I can't even begin to describe with some things. And it's so unique and so weird that people will be like, how did that happen? How did you survive that? How did you get through that?
I think what's really weird is how this situation impacted us in very different ways between me, you, and even our brother. I think the impact on each person was very unique and very different, but still very significant. And it's difficult for me to have this conversation because it's not something I've spoken about in great detail to this extent, but it literally sounds like a Nollywood movie, like that, like that's how it sounds, but it's very real because we saw it. We literally, like, we lived through it. And I remember, you know, obviously we've had a few incidents, we've had like dreams, but taking it right back to being young, I remember I think I must have been like 7 or 8 years old, and I was playing in mum's room. And, you know, obviously we like grew up going to church every week and all of that. And I remember the bookshelf in the room. I think I kind of like knocked into it, or I fell into it, and some of the books fell out. And one of the books that fell out and really stood out to me was quite a small book, but it was very distinct in the way that it was designed. And it was titled The Satanic Bible.
Wow.
And then it had like this picture of a pentagram on the front of it. And like, I just remember thinking, like, why is that in our house? Like, where did that come from? Like, I was just confused because I couldn't compute why, like, you know, why anyone would want to read that in our house, at least, especially considering I'd only ever known, you know, like church and, you know, the scriptures and things like that. And so I remember that sticking in my mind, and I don't think I ever mentioned it, or like I never asked him like what that was about or anything like that. But then I think as I got older, I realized that there have always been two altars fighting each other because they are polar opposites. So you have like the kind of
the light, the Christian side,
the Christian, the prayers, you know, the seeking God, and then you have this other side, which is like actually going quite deep into the occult and into witchcraft. And I think that as we grew, we started to see the manifestation of those two altars trying to coexist and clashing, basically. And I feel like that's what a lot of these manifestations and these dreams were coming from.
I mean, eventually, I think that's probably why our parents had to separate, because our mum was very much on the light side, pastoral, and father was very much the dark, diabolical type of side. So it was a war, like you say, two altars fighting each other. But also, I think what really brought it to light was when we tried and we attempted in trying to we tried to really look at reconciliation and doing so in a way that was serious. And in doing that, what happened was we traveled, we went straight home, you know, in Africa. And in doing that, we, you know, took some time out to see the family, see our grandparents. And we thought, this is a great opportunity to see dad and to reconcile. I think we were about 16, 17 at the time, maybe older.
A little bit
Probably older, actually. It was my brother was 16, my younger brother. And we went to Africa all of us, and we met with him at our grandfather's house, and he seemed like he wanted to reconcile and make amends, but it turned out that that wasn't the case. It turned out he came with bad intentions, and what that meant was, essentially, you know, we ended up with a serious problem when we returned to the UK. So, you know, in Africa, we met with our father, and he gave us gifts. And me and you didn't open our gifts. You know, we kind of just left them. But my brother, being 16, being really happy to see his father, because we hadn't seen him for, I don't know, maybe 15 years at that point, 14 years. So he was really happy, and he just took the gift and he put it on. It was like, I think it was a African attire. And literally after he put on that attire, he started behaving very strange. He started acting really strange. And we just thought, oh, what's wrong with you? Maybe you're tired, go to sleep. A few days later, we were on the plane back to the UK. And as we sat in the plane, he just burst out crying, like hysterically. He was crying hysterically. And me and you were looking at him like, what's wrong? What's wrong?
And
what's
he never
wrong?
cries. He's just
And he never cries.
he's
Like,
not a
he's
crier.
not an emotional person at all. And he burst out in tears, hysterical, like shouting in the plane. And then the air hostess kind of came up to us and was like, what's wrong? What's wrong with him? What's wrong with him? And we're thinking, oh my gosh, I hope they're not going to have to land the plane, and we're going to delay things. What's going on? Because he was making a scene. And I looked at him, I said, what is wrong? Can you stop crying? And he kept saying, I don't want to go. My dad, my dad, my dad. And I'm like, okay, this is strange. What's going on? We land in the airport, land in the UK, rush him to my sister's apartment at the time, and he starts collapsing. He starts just falling on the ground. He'll get up, walk for a few minutes, collapse. Get up, walk for a few minutes, collapse. And we were like trying to drag him into the apartment. He kept collapsing, and he's so heavy. He's like really muscular. And we were dragging him into the apartment and saying, can you just snap out of it? What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? Because we didn't want people thinking what's going on, or have we kidnapped him, or what's going on. So we rushed him into your apartment. And I don't know, that's the bits that I can remember. I don't know if you can remember any more of what happened after that.
I remember just being really scared. I remember that being the first time that I really felt fear, because it was not like anything I'd ever seen before. It was like he was losing his mind.
Exactly.
And there was no reason for it.
Yeah.
And it was intense. I just remember a lot of people praying for us. I remember him being in hospital at some point and taking a drugs test because they thought it was drugs, and then they came back and said, well, it's negative, there's nothing in his system. So we're just gonna like watch and wait and see what happens.
I think you kind of skipped. So what happened is literally when we saw him behaving this way, we called our mum, and she met us in London. She came to London from the north of England. She came to London, and then we took him to the hospital because we were like, he's talking gibberish. He keeps collapsing. We don't know what's wrong with him. And they did psychiatric assessments. So it was literally like from the plane to psychiatric assessments.
Yeah.
So strange, just from going to a holiday in Africa and trying to meet his dad. And they did all the assessments. Psychologists came, and he was shouting. He was saying all kinds of gibberish, we couldn't make sense of what he was saying. He kept talking about his dad, his ancestors. Like, he was talking about all kinds of things that we did not understand. And they thought he was losing his mind, and they were trying to drug him. And it got to the point where they had a security guard next to his bed in case he became violent, because he was that hard to control. And we were just praying, crying. You know, he couldn't sleep. He wouldn't sleep. He wouldn't eat anything. He lost so much weight.
Yeah.
I think this went on for at least 6 months.
Yeah.
He lost weight. He couldn't speak. And we were so scared. My mom was so scared. We thought he was going to die. And we thought they were going to put him in an institution. And I remember, you know, my mom, out of desperation, even though we were afraid and we thought our dad probably caused this through this kind of gift and this so-called reconciliation, but because she was so desperate, she called him and said, look, we're back in the UK. He's not behaving normally. I don't know what to do. And do you know what our dad's response was?
Yeah,
I don't know if you were there in the
I
hospital.
wasn't there, but I remember being told, and just, yeah.
He literally said, well, why wouldn't my son be behaving strangely? You know, he needs to be back in Africa with me. He was like, why wouldn't he be behaving that way? His spirit is here with me in Africa. I've taken his spirit. And I thought to myself, that is like, you're almost admitting. It's like, how are you telling me you took his spirit in Africa, you retained it?
Do you know what you just reminded me of?
And I was just like,
moment.
that's when we knew.
Yeah, you reminded me of the moment where I think at that point, she gave him the phone and he was speaking to dad on the phone, and he said something like, okay, well, you can be with your mum for now, that's not a problem. I give you that permission. It was something along those lines. And then when the phone call ended, his response in the hospital was, they want me to come back. And he just kept on saying that over and over again. They want me to come back. They want me to come back. And from what I heard, like, everybody that was in that room was just in stunned silence at the conversation that had just transpired. Because how do you explain that?
Yeah. And there was no like repentance or, oh, I'm sorry, or I didn't know, or whatever. It was just straight up, yeah, what do you expect? I want my son back. So you've obviously done it on purpose. You've done some kind of spell or ritual or witchcraft, whatever you want to call it. And that's affected his mind and affected him in such a bad way. But again, this is where we talk about the light of God, because we prayed. I remember we went to so many prayer churches and we were like putting in prayer requests. And this is, I guess, encouraging for you, whatever situation you're in, no matter how dark it is, if you pray, ask people to pray. Just start creating a prayer chain.
Yeah.
And when people pray and pray and pray, eventually that evil will lose its hold.
Yeah.
It can't keep its hold. And I think that was probably the biggest testimony we had. I think this was 2020. Well, when was this? It was a while ago.
Long time ago.
It was a while ago. Maybe 15 years ago. About 15 years ago.
15 years ago. Yeah.
So, you know, you're talking early 2010.
2012.
Yeah. So it's at that point we learned a lot about spirituality and God and the importance of that. And that has kept us, and it's kept our standard, and it's kept our faith, you know, because we can see how God clearly saves his people.
We definitely saw that with our own eyes in the most real and scary way. And everything I'd ever seen in an Hollywood movie was like,
I know, it was like literally
in real life, and
crazy.
So it's definitely bittersweet, but I think the light at the end of the tunnel and the beauty in that story is deliverance, and just, you know, him coming out of that situation and just his health and well-being just being like restored back to normal was like the best thing that could have come out of that situation.
Exactly. Just having that healing power and that restoration is it's such a miracle. And maybe we'll have him on at some point. We'll get him
I feel like
to share his story.
Living through it, he needs to talk about like what that was and what that felt to go through.
You let us know if you want us to have him on. We'll have him on.
Yeah. Glad we had that chat.
We're so happy you made it this far, but don't stop there. Subscribe to our channel so you can see episodes as soon as they drop. Thank you.